Hey guys, this is Mike Modano, and you're listening to Sarcastic Remarks on 365 Sportscast Radio Network.
Hey Chris, how's it going?
It's going fantastically.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Sarcastic Remarks. We are a Dallas
Thank you.
Stars focused show. I wasn't talking to you, I was talking to the listeners. Nobody cares about you. Shut up. We are two brothers who live in Texas and unfortunately care more about hockey than we do football. So, yay! Okay, so we got a lot of things lined up for you today. So we're going to talk a little bit on this show about the Dallas Stars rookie that is currently doing really well, Jason Robertson. He's got 13 points in 16 games, and that includes a 4-point night from the other night. We're going to talk about him and see if he is going to be a Calder Trophy candidate. We're also going to talk about some trading deadline stuff for the Stars. There's some really good articles that are up on The Athletic about, where the Stars should be and where we think they should be. We're going to talk a little bit about the Nhl deal with ESPN. It's going to be a good thing for the NHL and for ESPN both. So I think it'll be good for both of us. And we'll also preview tonight's game. They have another game against the Chicago Blackhawks tonight, and that'll start, I believe, at 7:30 Central Time, 8:30 Eastern, and we'll see how that goes. If it goes anything like the last game, Chris, it'll be excellent for the Stars.
Yeah, absolutely true. These past 3 games have been pretty great, so hopefully they can keep on doing that and flip this season around by closing out this series.
So let's first talk about this Matt DeFrank's article that he put up. And, I hadn't even really considered this, but it looks like the question he asked was, do the Stars have another Calder Trophy candidate in Jason Robertson? And right now, Jason Robertson is certainly making a case for that. So like I said, he has 13 points in his last 16 games. And out of the top 5 rookies in the NHL in scoring, he has played the least amount of games among those 5. And in some cases, it's 10 less games. So just remember, he's been in and out of the lineup for a while, especially in early February, and he's kind of been a main staple for this past month or so, and he's done really well.
Yeah, that's definitely true, especially with the amount of games that he's played. He's been in and out of the lineup until now when he's demanded to stay in. So I think as long as we leave him in the lineup and Bones doesn't do something silly, like Jason Robertson is going to be in that conversation for the rest of the season, I think. I mean, he's showing no signs of slowing down.
Right. So here's the other thing that's a really interesting fact about Robertson's 4-point night the other night against the Chicago Blackhawks. He only became the second rookie in Dallas Stars history to post a 4-assist night. And do you know who the other one was?
I already saw it. It's Jere Lehtinen.
You little cheater. So, and of course, where is Jere Lehtinen's number? Up at the top of the rafters of the American Airlines Center. So that is definitely good company to be in with if you're Jason Robertson.
Yeah, that's a good omen.
So it just seems like this is like another season, just another Calder Trophy possibility for the Stars. A couple years ago, It was Miro Heiskanen, and this year it's Jason Robertson.
And especially with the amount of games he's played, he's up there. He's in the top 5, right, for points?
Correct.
Yeah, and he's played less games in all of them, like by a pretty substantial margin, too. So as long as we leave him in there, which the Stars suck at giving prospects their shot, but hopefully we let him keep playing, then I think he's definitely going to be in that conversation. I mean, he's shown nothing, like no reason why he would slow down ever since he's been a staple in this lineup. So he's played great every game, offense and defense too. We see him make great defensive plays on back checks. Mm-hmm. So I think he's just become outstanding. Again, I called it. I didn't say he was going to be Calder, so I'm not going to claim I called that. But I said he was going to be in the lineup at least, so he's definitely proving that.
He's definitely been playing better, and especially on the
better. He's playing like one of the best rookies. We're talking about Calder right now, dude.
That is true, but he's still got a long way to go. I still feel like that the Calder Trophy is Kaprizov's trophy to lose at this point. The way that he's playing, Minnesota is doing so well, and a large part of that is because of the play of Kaprizov. Now, if Robertson can continue the point streak that he's been on and the amount of points that he's putting up, then you know what? Maybe he does get more consideration for the Calder Trophy. But the only other thing that's going against him right now, on top of that, is the fact that he plays in a small market. And I hate that, but it's the truth, right? Dallas is not the New York Rangers or the Toronto Maple Leafs or the even the Minnesota Wild. Even though the Minnesota Wild are still a small market, people don't look at Dallas and look at the players that we have.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but we also are the defending Stanley Cup champions. So he's going to get more looks than Heiskanen ever did, and Heiskanen was a defenseman who didn't get as much playing time as Makar and dude, I can't even think of his name.
Hughes?
Who's the other guy? Yeah, Hughes. He didn't play as much as Makar and Hughes, and he was around the same points, which was crazy. So I think as a forward, he'll get more looks than Heiskanen does, and since the Stars, they are a big team still, they're definitely in a rough spot, but I don't think that's going to last, honestly, especially the way that they've played the last 3 games. So I think this is going to be a turnaround for the Stars, and I think as long as the Stars are playing good, Robertson's going to get some looks. And as long as Robertson's playing good, then the Stars are going to keep getting better. So I think those things would go hand in hand.
Well, and it's not like that so let's talk about the assists that he had on Tuesday's game. It's not like those assists came and they were just little rinky-dinky plays, or it was a shot from the point and then someone picked up the rebound. Other than one assist, all the 3 other assists he had were primary assists on.
He was making plays.
Right, exactly.
He wasn't just finding points out of the blue like some people do sometimes. I guess Ben is one that kind of does that a lot. He kind of gets a lot of secondary assists just because he plays with good people. But Robertson definitely wasn't doing that. He was the one making the plays and watching where the puck should go in the play. So yeah, he's definitely earning those assists.
Yes, definitely. I agree. And it doesn't hurt when you're playing with Rope Hintz, who is arguably the Stars' best player right now. And also, Kiviranta, who got a little bit of a talking to from Bonus this past week. And after he had a really bad game on Sunday. And boy, did he make up for it on Tuesday. But anyway, that's another rookie we could talk about. But
yeah, let's talk about that real quick, honestly, because that's kind of an awesome storyline that not many people are talking about.
Sure, go for it.
If you'll remember Sunday's game, he sucked. He was bad. He completely gave away a goal. He threw it right in front of our own net. That was nuts. And right after that, that's an amazing game by Kivy. He looked good the entire game. And that's what the Stars have always sucked at, that they need to keep trying to be good at, is they don't give enough pressure to those rookies when they need it and deserve it. Kiviranta and Robertson have earned the right to make mistakes. So they should be able to make mistakes, have the coach have their back, and put them right back out there for the same amount of time because they deserve it. So as long as those guys keep making mistakes, they're going to keep getting better, obviously, like Kiviranta has and Robertson has. So hopefully those guys keep playing. We know Bones doesn't like playing the young guys, but we got to do it if we want them to get better. And so far they've become a huge part of this team.
Well, and it looks like he might be finally warming up to that idea because the play of Robertson has done. He's been really good. He let Ty Dellandrea come back into the game, and Ty Dellandrea had 2 really good games on Saturday and Sunday. And then he also put down Justin Dowling. So Justin Dowling is on the taxi squad.
Well, he didn't do that.
Now.
Jim Nill did that.
Yeah, but you had to think that he's included in on that decision, I would think. And Dowling's 31 years old. Dowling's 31 years old, so I would think
he's an older boy.
Yeah, he's an older dude. And I appreciate Justin Dowling for what he does, but he's not what we need right now. So one of the things that Robertson talked about in the post game on Tuesday, he was asked a question of what did you do different of what's going on, and this is what he said. He said, when I feel more confident, I can make more poised plays, whether that be pulling up or trying to lead a weak side defenseman up the ice in the breakouts. Going forward, it helps offensively and defensively. I try to work on the transition game and providing offense. Well, boy, has he ever, especially that last little bit. So,
yeah, and I like that he talks about transition game because he's really shown, like, out of the gate, he's a two-way forward. Like, there's been multiple times he'll come all the way back and break up what was a 2-on-1. Like, I've seen that multiple times. He's made great defensive plays, just 5-on-5, getting the puck out of his own zone. So I think he's looked great on defense. I think, obviously, he's looked great on offense. The points will show that. But what points won't show is how good of an overall player he is. And I think he really is a really well-rounded hockey player.
Well, and I would definitely say he's the most improved player this season, too. And that's something that Bones said.
Well, he wasn't even playing last season.
Well, the thing is from the beginning of the season until now, I think he is the most improved player. And you know, hopefully he
that's
can
what
get...
he's.
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's kind of what he was saying, right? Like he feels like he's doing better this way because he has that confidence, and like scoring points and goals in the NHL will do that for you. Like. So it seems to me he's felt like he's always had this skill, but he just hasn't been able to translate it to the NHL. And now that he has some experience in doing it, he's confident in his abilities to do it on this level as well. So I feel like he has been this good of a player. He just hasn't been able to bring that into the NHL, into how fast it is. And now he feels like he can, and he's kind of figured it out. So hopefully that means he's cementing himself in the top 6. That's what we're going to see this season, is if he can really keep up this scoring pace, see if he's going to be a top 6 forward or a bottom 6.
Well, and then the more interesting thing about this team is that when Roberts, if he continues to play like this, where he's putting up points basically every game, if not every other game, and then Radulov comes back, and Sagan comes back, and I mean, who do you put down?
It's a scary hockey team.
I know, it's scary. So honestly, we really need him to be one of our better players right now. And that second line was awesome Tuesday.
Well, and this is like what we said in the preseason show. We need somebody. Like, someone's got to step up and fill a role. And in the beginning of the season, pretty much the vets were doing that, right? The vets were scoring all the goals, and we had a whole ton. Mm-hmm. Then it kind of dried out, and now Robertson's stepping up, and Hintz is stepping up. Like, that's what it takes for a team whose style is more defensive and more focused on moving the puck through D-men, is you need one guy to step up and make plays every once in a while. And that's all you need, and you can win games. So right now, it's Robertson who's being the one who's stepping up, just like we said. We need somebody to do it, and Robertson has been the one to do it.
Well, and not only has he stepped up, but he stepped up after being a healthy scratch for 5 straight games, with 13 points in the next 13 games.
Exactly. And that's why we need to play these guys instead of Dowling and Caro. Like, Dowling and Caro are more consistent. I will admit to that. Like, they're probably mentally a better hockey player, but they don't have just the raw talent that these guys can possess and turn into goals.
Well, and then the other thing is that, yes, these rookies are going to make mistakes, right? And that's what got Ty Dellandrea out of the lineup in the first place, is because he made a couple of boneheaded decisions in the past. And he got back in. But the thing with Dowling and Caro is they won't make those mistakes, but you are exactly right that they don't have that offensive talent that we need right now. And especially with all of these players for the Stars being out that can score goals, we need more guys like that. And I hope Bonus is seeing that. And maybe Bonus knows something that I don't know. But he has spent 50 years as an NHL coach.
He's doing what we want now, and it's working, right? I mean, we were saying Dowling and Caro shouldn't be out there, and we should be playing our young guys. Our young guys come up, and we're winning now.
Well, and
obviously we know something.
Well, and also not just winning, but we're playing better. It's one thing to win and suck when we win, but like the way we're playing is fantastic. The last 4 games have been so much better than the previous 14.
Absolutely true.
And the other thing that Bonus said about Robertson is he's just competing a lot harder, and then like the physical side of the game is getting better. So Bonus said this about Robertson, but just as a generalization, he said, it's an adjustment every young player has to make, the intensity, the size, the physicality of our players in this league. It was an adjustment for him and still is, but I'll tell you, he's come a long way in the physical part of the game. He's in there battling. So if you go and look at all the highlights of the games, if you go and you look and you actually watch the full game, and especially if you can see the full ice, which it helps being live at the game, you can see what he's doing away from the puck. it's 20 times better than it was before he was scratched for 5 straight games.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. His forecheck and his defense have been great too. Like, it's not just his offense. He's figured out, I don't know, he's figured out the secret sauce to the NHL or something. Like, he's figured out how to kick it into that higher gear that all the NHL players have. So it's been great to watch him so far. I think he's definitely going to be a Calder nominee. So as long as he keeps playing this well.
Yeah.
Well, not this. He doesn't have to keep playing this well, obviously. He doesn't have to score 4 points a night. But he hasn't showed signs since he's been back in that he would be slowing down at all. So
right, yeah, and I don't expect him to score every single game because he's a rookie.
Yeah.
So I mean, the last time a rookie scored insanely like that, that was back in the 90s. So you shouldn't expect that. But what I think we can expect from Robertson now is
a consistent point scorer
and a top 6 points scorer.
Yeah.
And he needs to fulfill that role, especially while Sagan and Radulov are out. So
definitely true.
We'll see how that goes on for Robertson. So just a couple of statistics for you. Just, among NHL rookies for Robertson. So with at least 100 minutes at 5-on-5, this is where Robertson kind of ranks per 60 minutes. In goals, he's 4th. In primary assists, he's 1st. In total assists, he's 1st. And in points, he's getting up. And in points, he's 1st. So that's at 5-on-5. So that means, like you said, he's a full two-way player. He's not just getting his points on the power play like Pavelski is, or, getting shorthanded goals or whatever like that. He is one of the best 5-on-5 rookies in the NHL right now.
Yeah.
And
that's what I think as a total player, even not even just a point scorer, just an overall player. He's just a great hockey player all around.
Right, and we kind of mentioned it, but Minnesota's Kaprizov and then Ottawa's, they've got actually 2 rookies in right now for top scoring rookies. They've got Josh Norris and Tim Stützle, who is taken at 3rd overall in the draft this past, what was it, October? I think October is when they pushed it back to.
I had no idea.
But yeah, so those 3 guys right now have more points than Robertson, but Robertson can catch them because he's played less games. So we'll see what happens. In the last 2 seasons, the Stars have had a couple of candidates for Calder of the Year, Rookie of the Year, the Calder Trophy. Calder of the Year, yeah. Gosh, I'm stupid. So Heiskanen finished 4th in the 2018-2019 season. And then Dennis Gurianov finished 11th last season with his 20 goals, leading the Dallas Stars. So I honestly think it's a little bit too early to tell where Robertson is going to end up. But dang, it's definitely a good start.
Yeah, I mean, true, it's too early, but like we've said, he's shown no signs of why he would slow down at all. It's not like these are like fluky goals and he's making spectacular plays. He's just playing solid hockey.
Just all across the board, and I hope he continues that again tonight. So we'll have to see how he continues to play over the course of the next 2.5 months. Can you believe that? There's only 2.5 months left in the season, and we just started.
And there's a lot more hockey.
Yeah. Yeah, and for those of you that are tuning in that aren't, crazy Stars fans or anything like that, the Stars don't have another option in the season where they have 2 days off. They play a game, day off. Play a game, day off. Or it's play a game, day off.
Yeah, on the weekends.
So so on the weekends it's like they play every day.
You've got a Stars game on Saturday and Sunday until hockey ends.
Right. So it's getting insane for the Stars, but obviously I think Robertson's going to be a big push for this Stars team to at least push until hopefully Sagan can get back and Bishop can get back, and maybe we make a final push to make the playoffs and get that 4th position. Because right now, if you look at points percentage, we're 5th. So just with a couple of good games, we've gone from 7th to 5th. So
we're like 5. We're like 5 games behind the other
some
teams.
Cases 6.
So
in some cases,
yeah,
6.
some 6.
So we'll see how that goes. So anyways, let's transition to a different topic. So obviously the trade deadline is coming up fairly soon, and sooner than we feel like, because this is not a normal season. Everything is different. So I think the deadline is April 11th, April 13th, something like that. So we have a little bit more than a month before the Stars have to start making some decisions about who they are. So are they sellers? Are they buyers? Are they conservative buyers? Are they just, stay put and just go with the flow and see what happens? Right now, Chris, where would you say that we're at? Are we sellers or are we buyers? Or do we just stay put?
I think we're kind of buyers. So if you can find someone at the right price, so maybe draft picks, because I still feel like we're in a win now mode. Like, we have some younger guys, but like the real foundation of this roster is in the veterans. It's Jamie Benn, Sagan, Pavelski, Radulov, Ben Bishop, Anton Hudovan.
Klingberg.
Like, those are and Klingberg.
Klingberg's 27 now. He's in the prime of his career. He's not a young guy anymore.
He wouldn't be a veteran though, but yeah, whatever. But yeah, those guys, like, I feel like we can win with these guys. Like, obviously, we went to the Stanley Cup final last season. If we can get these guys healthy, I feel like we can go again. So if you can find a way to sneak a top 6 forward, or maybe even another good defenseman to help out on the bottom pair for either prospect that is not that's not Robertson, Ottinger, Hintz, Gurianov, Harley, or Delandria, then I think you could go for that. But I don't think you really want to, especially because of cap space, we're not going to be buying anything big right now. So maybe if you can find something of value for costing nothing that's a part of the team right now, you would go for it. But other than that, I think we're staying put. I definitely don't think we're selling unless something really takes a turn.
Well, so that's an interesting point that you say that, because I agree with you. We're in kind of a win now mode. I think we have this year, maybe next year if we're lucky, honestly, with this group. And I mean, it looks like a Stanley Cup team from the outside. You've got the grizzled veterans. You've got the players that should be scoring. They're not scoring like they are because of the defensive style of hockey that we play. You've got the young guys. You've got a fantastic goaltender in Ben Bishop.
Three fantastic goaltenders
right now. And it just looks like it, but we just have not performed to the expectations that we had for this team.
And it's because of all the injuries, really. Overall, that's what it has been.
Well, I mean,
we've had 3 of our highest paid players not playing hockey.
Right, so
hard to win games when you don't have that.
Yeah, Sagan has been out since, the bubble playoffs ended. Bishop has been the same, and they're not coming back until April, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
end of April.
Radulov has been out for over a month now.
Hoping in the next couple of weeks on Rads is what I've heard.
So with that in mind, a lot of people are saying the Dallas Stars should be sellers at this point. And now that's at this point. We're doing it, again, this is early. This is early a month before. So if we go on a tear like we did last year, where we went 14-1-1 after we went 1-7-1.
Which I feel like something like that is on the horizon.
Yeah, and it feels like this watching this team right now.
It feels the same. It feels the same as it did last season. When we had those 3 good games, we're like, oh boy, something's coming. Right. Like, doesn't it feel that way to you? Like, it just feels like this team is playing good hockey again.
Right, and there's no statistics really to back up the feeling of like just watching them and saying, yeah, they're doing good. There's no stat for that. But if you watch this team as much as we do, which we watch every single game, we watch every single highlight, we inhale as many articles as we can read, watch as many videos as we can, then you'll know that this feels different than it did, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So it feels exactly like it did last season.
So let's talk on.
Well, let's do that. Let's say the 2 different options. So if we're right and we do go on a tear, Are you agreeing with me? We're buyers.
100%. 100%.
So
Because with this group,
for the
you
same
don't have a
price as I
chance.
was saying.
Yes.
Yeah. And then so let's say if we do so for just the sake of argument, we're wrong, and we go back to playing like we did a few days ago. We get like to 400 in point percentage, likely out of it. What do we do then?
Well, then we look to move some of these players that are, pending UFAs. I would suspect. Like, obviously there's untouchables, and we'll get to that in a second. But like, maybe Cogliano. Cogliano would be a good bottom six forward for somebody, and he needs to go someplace where he can get a cup again.
A team that wants to make a playoff push would love to have a Cogliano. That's definitely true.
Or, on the flip side, of Como. Both of those guys.
Either one of them.
Yeah, and they need to go to a team that doesn't need scoring. So, like, if they go to Tampa, for example, that would be perfect.
They'd be the same guys. They would be bottom six guys, but they would be grinders and they would be locker room guys.
Right. Now, on the flip side, and everyone's talking about the Seattle expansion draft and who we might lose. And
that's what you're preparing for if you're selling.
Right.
If you're selling, that you're trying to set yourself up to not be hurt.
Not to lose a really good player. And I'm really sad to say this because I don't want to see him go. But if we have to sell, we have to sell Jamie Alexiak. I feel like, because the way that the Stars are set up, they're going to protect 8 forwards and 3 defensemen, and Alexiak is that 4th defenseman out. And if you have been watching him this year in the playoffs, he has solidified his spot in the top 4 with the Stars. And he could be a very good top 4 player for Seattle. So in order not to lose him for nothing in the expansion draft, I feel like you trade him somewhere where to a contender that really needs, maybe where he can play as the 5th or 6th defenseman, someplace like that. Because I would hate to see him.
I don't think he's playing as a
Seattle.
5th or 6th defenseman anywhere, dude. He's a freaking good defenseman. I think he's a 1 or a 2 on bad hockey teams, and I think he's definitely a 3 or 4 on contenders.
Now,
but I think that's fair. For a team whose blue line is so important, like the Stars, I feel like the best case scenario for us is to make a deal to keep him. Don't you think?
So make a deal with Seattle?
Yeah, I don't know what that would look like, though.
Well, the only problem, I would hate to do that because you see what Florida did with Vegas, and they made a deal with Vegas, and they said, don't take these players, and they gave them Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith, and look what happened to those 2 players for Vegas.
Yeah.
So it's like, I would hate to make a deal like that. But yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that.
It's tough to say because, like, again, when do you know when his contract expires?
I think next season, if I remember correctly. No, this season.
Alexiak does?
Yes.
Well, then he's not even available to be taken unless he's re-signed.
Well, they can take a certain amount of contracts that... Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they have like a certain amount of time to where they can work out an extension with the player if they know they're going to take that player. I think that's how it works. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, this whole process is strange. Yeah. So even for guys who know hockey, we don't know what the heck's going on.
Right. So
I know you have to have a certain number of players that have played a certain number of games in the NHL that are signed for next season that they can take.
And like they have to have like I think like 2 years in the league or something like that. So players like, Robertson and oh my gosh, Kiviranta are off the board. Like you can't take those players because they're rookies. You can't.
Well, you can take. I think you can take them, but I don't think so.
Well,
I don't know.
It's weird. We should probably do just like a non-PGR episode just about the Seattle expansion draft and explain it, and then do our own draft. So we'll do that later. So we'll talk about that later. But yeah, anyway, so Alexiak should be on the radar if we sell. Now here's the scary one, which I don't like, and if you're a Stars fan, you see on all these groups everywhere, trade Klingberg. He sucks. He doesn't suck, first off, so shut your pie hole. And second off, there's if we're really that bad and Nhl is ready to completely tear this thing down, if we have just like a terrible season for this next month, then John Klingberg is up there as well.
I don't see any situation. So he's still 27. Like, he's got, like, 6 to 8 good years of hockey left. Right? Like,
I think so too. And I'm not agreeing with that at all. I
think he's a guy.
Go ahead.
I think he's a guy that you can take the team down and build it with him as the captain, honestly. Like, him being the veteran leader. Like, obviously, so we know the guys who you would build the team around if you tear it down right now. You'd build it around Heiskanen, Hintz, and Gurry. But, like, you need the veteran presence there, too. Like, a Klingberg could be a great guy to put at the helm of that ship. So I think giving away a great player like him would be silly. And same thing, I know it's also talked about Esa Lindell. I think that is dumb. I think he's one of the most underrated defensemen in the league. I think he's one of the best strictly defensive defensemen in the league. And even every once in a while, he's shown that when Klinger's out, he can play an offensive style too and be great at it. Like, he's been the he's been the top at power plays at times, and he's looked great there. So I think selling either of those guys is dumb. I think we have the best 1-2 in the division at least, if not the conference.
Well,
so
here's the reason why they're all saying this, because John Klingberg is really cheap for what he does for the Stars. He only makes $4.25 million, and they signed him to that long time ago. And that was a steal of a contract for Jim Nhl. So he's gonna expect an extension, and he's gonna expect a raise from that.
And he's talked about that though, and he's talked about why he did take a slightly lower deal to stay here. Like, he's talked about that openly. He took a smaller deal because he said Esa deserves more than me. Like, that's what he said in interviews and stuff. So I think John wants to play on a winning hockey team. Well, and if that's really true, I think he wouldn't. If he wants tons of money, he could. I feel like he could go and get 7 or 8 somewhere.
Right, yeah.
And if that's the case, you can't sign him. But, like, I feel like he's such a good hockey player, it's worth writing it out even to the end of his contract.
Well, and here's the thing about, the John Klingberg versus Esa Lindell, combo that they're talking about. There's no one to replace Esa Lindell in what he does. Jamie Alexiak might be able to do that, but not as well as Esa Lindell can.
Nowhere near as well as
If you lose John Klingberg, you have Miro Heiskanen. So that's the argument with why a lot of people are saying, trade Klingberg, why you can get a lot of good assets for him. Now, I would love to see him stay and Heiskanen stay, and I really hope we can, because that's it. The reason why we made the Stanley Cup Finals is because of those two players, right?
Yeah, they were outstanding. And I think those two guys are why the offense through the defense worked so well. And, like, no other team in the playoffs had that. Nobody was able to set up and consistently get pucks in from their D guys. It's like, I think if you want to keep playing like that, you need to have the best guys in the league who are doing it. And that's why we're able to go that far, is because we have the best defensemen, and we're playing a style geared towards them. So I think if we want to play the same way, it's important to keep those guys. But if we're selling and we want to play like Hintz and Gurry and play run and gun and go score on the rush, then I guess you can get rid of them. But that's a tough ask for me personally.
I know.
I wouldn't like that.
I mean, what would you expect to get back for John Klingberg?
A lot.
I
would top 6 forward, a 1 or 2 round draft pick, and a prospect.
Not a second round. You would expect a first round and somebody that can score right now. That's what I would say. Honestly, that's me, because you're giving up a guy who is, like you said, he's 27. He's in the prime of his career.
And a tiny contract.
Yeah, and I mean, he's still going to expect more after this year. So maybe with the Stars he'll sign somewhere around where Esa Lindell makes. I think Esa makes 5.5, somewhere around there.
Yeah, somewhere around 6.
But man, as a Stars
It's hard
fan,
for me to even
I know,
think
yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
like even though we're broadcasters and we are like emotionally invested in this team, and we don't want to see a guy like this go.
Yeah,
So
like I remember when Klinger scored from the center ice line in his rookie season, and like that was the coolest thing ever. And every time we would take stupid shots while playing street hockey, we would just scream Klingberg, like trying to knuckle puck one in. So yeah, uh, he's an awesome player. He's second in points on the team. He's in the prime of his career. He's solid defensively now too. So if you get rid of him, you have to be completely blowing up the team, absolutely everyone going, and you better be having a high asking price.
Okay, so let's talk about this team and which players are like not going to happen. They're not going to be traded. Let's talk about players who are, completely 100% untouchable, even if the Stars are sellers. And then we'll talk about some players who are just kind of they've got value and they're good, but they may be hard to move just because of their cap hits. And then we'll talk about some players who might be available if we get the right deal. So first off, let's talk about the players that are just completely untouchable and it just can't happen. And I'm not talking about the young guys. I'm talking about the guys that have NMCs, no movement clauses. So out of those three guys, it's Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, and Ben Bishop. So those three guys have no movement clauses, and they will 100% be protected when Seattle does their expansion draft. And then to add a fourth player on there that's completely untouchable that doesn't have a no movement clause right now is Miro Heiskanen.
Yeah, if you got rid of Miro Heiskanen, you would be fired immediately.
Right. I mean,
like that would be the dumbest decision in all of hockey.
The only thing
no matter what, you could trade like a superstar right now for Miro Heiskanen, and it would be a stupid decision.
So even if you got Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl?
You could get Connor McDavid, and that would be a stupid decision.
Oh, hot takes on the Starcaster Remarks pod radio show. Okay, so even if we're sellers, who are some players that are just completely untouchable? So now let's include some of these rookies. Who are those? And you kind of mentioned this earlier, but go ahead and mention those players again.
Yeah, I think Hintz, Gurionov, and Otter are the three that are definitely you wouldn't move. I think Robertson has definitely looked good right now, and Dellandrea has looked decent as well. But, like, they haven't been field tested as much as Otter, Hintz, and Guri have. Like, I know Otter hasn't played a lot of NHL games, but he's played a lot of AHL games, and we've been working this guy for, like, 3 or 4 years now. Like, he is the Stars goalie of the future. So, like, as soon as either Dobby's gone or Bishop's gone, he's going to be able to step up in a big way. Harley, I think, is great. I wish he would play more. But, again, he hasn't been field tested the same way. So if somebody is willing to offer you some crazy deal for Robertson, Dellandrea, or Harley, I would say you could take it. I mean, it'd have to be really good, but if someone sees something like crazy great and you want to make a push to the playoffs and they're giving you a top 6 forward or a really good defenseman, a really good scoring defenseman, you might take that deal.
I don't know, because even if you do get a fantastic player for the assets that you give up, you don't know how that's going to work with the chemistry of the team. If you keep these players who, and all of them are growing up through the Dallas Stars organization, right? So none of these players have gone through other organizations. So this is all they've known. The Dallas Stars organization is all they've known. I don't think you trade anybody.
Well, and that's, again,
if you get a huge deal.
It comes down to what are we doing? Like, are we trying to win the Stanley Cup this year or are we not? If we're trying to win the Stanley Cup, it's worth it to give up a Robertson, a Harley, or a Dellandrea.
But are we
in my opinion.
Are we really that close enough looking at the team right now? Because
Yes.
we wouldn't have said that. Like, we had no idea the Stars were going to go to the Stanley Cup Finals, right?
I thought they were going to be good.
I thought they were going to be good.
You didn't. You thought they were going out in the first round.
I thought they were going out in the first round. I admit that. But, man, this is so hard.
I think this team is good enough to win a Stanley Cup. If you're fully healthy, I think if we're fully healthy last season, we beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, just with the style that we have. The style of hockey that we play was set up to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. Just all of our players were dead. Like, none of them could go. Like, if you look at how many injured players they had, it was, like, not even close. So, and they had a much easier path to the playoffs, too, by the way. But I think this team is ready to win the playoffs, or to win the Stanley Cup. So, if giving up Harley Robertson or Dellandrea gets you a good scorer right now, I think it's worth it. Again, it also depends on if we truly are making a turn here in the season, the way I feel. So if we dip below 400, of course we're going to hold on to these guys. But as long as we're in the hunt, like, I think if we make the playoffs, we are scary dangerous.
Well, that's all we have to do.
Yeah, because that's what we've said.
We've talked about this on our podcast episodes with our PGRs. It's just that if you can just get to the playoffs, then everything at that time resets, and it's all bets are off at that point.
Yeah, because this team is built for playoff hockey. That's what we saw last season. Even without great scoring and even with players hurt, they were still able to roll over the Golden Knights. Like, it wasn't a challenge. It was easy. So I think this team is built for that. As long as we're able to sneak in, I think we're likely to get to conference finals.
The only way that I see any of those players that we mentioned, all of our young guys who are either in the AHL right now and are very close to making their Dallas Stars debut, or they're already on the Dallas Stars roster, the only way I see any of those players going is if we get, like, a huge name. So I'm talking like, I don't know, Jack Eichel. How about that?
Whoa.
So that's and again, I don't expect that to happen. But for the Stars to get
that's
Eichel,
not going to happen.
I do expect Eichel to get traded soon. Within the next year.
Not for Jason Robertson though.
But it might be included in the package for Jack Eichel is what
you'd have to give him Robertson, Harley, and Dellandrea for Jack Eichel. Dude.
You would need more than that, I would think. I mean,
maybe more than that. Yeah.
If you go after Jack Eichel, then they're wanting Miro Heiskanen, I think.
Right.
That's honestly it. Miro Heiskanen plus Jason Robertson.
That might actually, like, hinder our ability to go after any big guys, right? I mean, we saw that with what's his name? San Jose was on the Sens.
Carlson.
We saw that with Carlson. They wouldn't take anything other than Hintz or Heiskanen. And we were like, we'll give you all of this stuff if you take him. And they said no, and they actually took a smaller deal with another team just because they said they wanted Heiskanen. So that might actually be a hindrance to our ability to pick up anybody big.
Well, I am very glad that we did not sign Erik Karlsson. How about that?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine having Erik Karlsson instead of Miro Heiskanen right now?
That would be so dumb.
No. No. I would not appreciate that, and I would not like that right now. So, but I just don't see how you move any of those players. And because as much, crap as we give Jim Nill, he's done an excellent job. He's got players that are in the prime of their career.
I don't give Jim Nill crap. I give Bones crap.
I give Jim Nill crap every once in a while, but yeah. So anyway, that's another discussion for another day. So let's talk about two players that they're doing really well, and they have some value to a team, but it's just going to be really hard to move them. And two of those players are Joe Pavelski and Alexander Radulov. So the argument for Joe Pavelski is he's got a full no movement clause through the end of this season, but he's also got a $7 million cap hit for somebody who is 36, 37.
I mean, he's earning every penny of it right now.
So, yeah. So and that's great, but he's a grizzled veteran. He's old now. I just don't see any team that would
Yeah,
be
someone.
calling, or even us, like even if we shopped Pavelski, I don't think anybody would be, interested
Yeah,
in picking him up.
I think more likely is Radulov, just because he hasn't been playing as well. So we would shop him for
Or
something
playing
cheaper.
at all.
Yeah, or playing at all. But even then, like, I don't think he's gonna his waive his no movement clause. Like, I don't think he has a reason to. So I think he's happy where he's at. It seems like everybody on this team is actually happy being on this team. So I think anyone who has a no movement clause isn't really gonna move.
Yeah, and then the other thing with Alexander Radulov, he's got a modified no trade, no movement clause, but he's not putting up the points that Pavelski is, and he's making $6.25 million. So first off, they would have to ask Radulov to waive his no trade clause, which I don't think he would do anyways because he seems to like it in Dallas and like playing for the Stars. And then on top of that, they would have to find a suitor that would take a $6.25 million cap hit when basically everybody is in cap hell right now except for like the Red Wings who have like $34 million in cap space. So I just don't see it. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think either of those guys are moving. I think you'd like to move Radulov, but I don't think there's any chance with the no movement clause. And I think the no movement clause was a good thing to give him to get him here. Like, I think it was worth it to give him that when we signed him. So I'm not saying it's a bad deal, but it is kind of hindering us right now.
So, and then we've got players who may be available if you get the right deal. So we've already talked about Alexiak, and so let's put that to rest. So, I mean, on top of, the Seattle draft, he's got a low cap hit. He's played really well the past year and a half for the Stars. But here's a couple of other players that may be on the trading block if the Stars are sellers. Anton Hudovan. Believe it or not.
Yeah,
I think he's on the trading block.
If you can get something good for Hudovan, that would be a great deal. Like, I love Hudovan. He's great. He's obviously a great goaltender, but he's old. His contract isn't that long, and he's getting paid a pretty decent amount. So if you can get something good for him, and we have an Ottinger behind him is the big thing. So if you can get something good for Hudovan, that would be a great move.
Yeah, and the emergence of Ottinger has kind of proven to me that the tandem next year will be Bishop and Ottinger.
So you think he's moving even if he doesn't get moved before the trade deadline?
Yeah. And if we don't have Alexiak, then I think that's the player they take in the draft. That Seattle takes in the draft is Dobby, just because he's played well, and they just need a couple of years to get their boots down. So, and another player that I thought was really interesting was Jason Dickinson. So you and I kind of have a love-hate relationship when it comes to how Jason Dickinson plays.
He's been playing much better this season. I will say he's been playing well.
I love the guy, and I love what he does for the Stars. He is the definition of a utility player for the Stars. He can play on the fourth line. He's played on the second line, which he may do tonight if Hintz is out. He's played on the first line in some random cases. He can play on the power play. He can do penalty kill. He's been on 3-3. He does everything for the Stars. Now, not to the extent that other players may, showcase more on, like John Klingberg on the power play or Esa Lindell on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
But he does everything the right way. And
he does his job.
And a team that is a Stanley Cup contender that needs one of those players like that, he is a perfect player, I feel like.
Yeah, that's true. He'd be a great guy to pick up before the deadline, just to fill a role. Maybe even a second line center, even just someone who will work hard if he's got good wingers beside him.
So those are a couple players that if we get the right deal, I think that we do it. So we're quickly running out of time. So let's talk about the NHL deal with ESPN. I am excited. This is going to be awesome. I really am excited.
I think it's really cool. that, like we said when we were speculating about it, I think it'll definitely get us on get the NHL on SportsCenter more, which may not seem like a big deal. Like, who cares if we're on SportsCenter? But like casual sports fans who are just chilling, just watching that could incline them to watch hockey more. And like, hockey sucks at marketing. So if the ESPN will do marketing for us, like, that's great. We love that.
Well, and that's one of the things that we've been talking about for years now, is that, you know, the NBA does a great job with marketing their best players. And then the NFL does that a great job with, like, Mahomes and Brady and J.J. Watt and, you know, some of these other players that are, you know, big stars in the game. And the NHL does that to some extent in Canada, and Sportsnet and TSN up there in the north. Canada,
it's not the NHL.
Yeah,
it's the media companies that are doing it.
Yeah, and especially Sportsnet does a fantastic job of it. And we've seen that ESPN can do that. So here's just a couple of things about that deal. So let me pull it up. I can't find it. I had it a second ago and then I lost it.
Well, it was 7 years and it was like $1 million, billion, $trillion. That's what I know.
Well, let me talk about off the top of my head what I remember. It was a 7-year deal, and they didn't release the numbers for it, but it's reported that it's worth $2.8 billion over the 7 years. So that's an average.
That's a lot of money.
That's an average of about $400 million, about $410 million, something like that. And that's just half of the deal, half of the broadcasting rights for the NHL. So when the NHL did the deal...
Oh, this was only half.
Yeah, this is not the whole thing.
I didn't even know that.
So NBC and Fox are the two biggest that are apparently fighting over the rights right now with the NHL for that. You know, they call it the A package. ESPN is the A package, and they have the B package. And there's still networks that are fighting over the B package. So we'll see where that goes up. But ESPN already doubled the TV contract that the NHL made in the United States with the NBC deal that they signed over 10 years ago. So when they signed the deal 10 years ago with NBC, it was about $200 million a year. So, I mean, we could be looking at the NHL tripling the value of their TV contracts, which is fantastic for the league. And on top of that, it's going to get more eyeballs on hockey just in general with the casual sports fan, which I think is fantastic. And the thing about ESPN, and a lot of people don't like ESPN because they haven't covered hockey very well in the past 17 years, but they are the worldwide leader in sports. They are. Yeah. I mean, there's no...
Why would you cover hockey if you're not showing any of the games?
Right, exactly.
So now you got a reason to cover hockey.
Mm-hmm. And
so I would expect a much larger investment in them on, like, I expect a NHL like show coming on ESPN pretty much daily. I expect more NHL analysts coming out of SportsCenter. I expect them talking about big games on SportsCenter. I think there's gonna be a lot more hockey on people's TVs.
Yes, and I'm really excited for that fact, just because of, I don't know. This is the station that was covering hockey when I was little. So I was born in '93, and they stopped covering it in '04. So when the Stars won the Stanley Cup, one of the networks that was covering it, other than just Ralph and Razor, was Gary Thorne and Bill Clement. And please, for the love of God, please ESPN bring back Gary Thorne. I love Gary Thorne, and it's 100% just a nostalgic thing. And ESPN has done really good about, bringing the nostalgia back when they have stuff like this happen. So I hope they bring him back. And he's 72, but who cares? Right? He's old, but who cares? Bring him back. Bring him back. I would love to see him. There's a lot more we could talk about the ESPN deal, but we're running out of time. So let's talk about in the last couple minutes that we have. The Stars are going to play tonight against Chicago starting at 7:30. They will be at the AAC. I do expect a huge pushback from the Chicago Blackhawks. Chris, what are your final thoughts before we close this out?
They've been blown out 2 games in a row. They better be pissed off, right? So they better come out swinging. And the Stars need this game. Like, as much as it can be a must-win in the first in the first half of the season, this is it. Like, this will bring us above 500 again in point percentage. It'll bring them down closer to us. So even though it's just still the first half of the season, this is as important as an early season series can get. You've got to take both of these. Only getting one doesn't help us as much. If you take both, it's a huge thing in the standings. It's a huge thing to keep this momentum going. It's just a huge thing trying to get to the playoffs at the end of this season. I think it's a huge game.
Right, and all we're fighting for is 4th place. That we don't even care about where we are in the playoffs. We just want 4th place. And right now, that seems to be possible for the Stars, because right now we are 5th in points percentage. And
it looks a lot more possible if you win this game. Looks a lot more possible.
But we got to beat up on these teams. These teams that, should be behind us, and like Chicago is not right now. We got to beat up on these teams. Well,
that's why we need this game. We got to bring Chicago closer to us. We got to pull them down while we're pulling ourselves up.
All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for us today. You can follow us on Twitter at SarcasticR, and also follow us on Instagram at Sarcastic Remarks Podcast. Like us on Facebook and follow us on our YouTube channel. We do lots of other stuff rather than just doing this radio show. So if you want to tune into that, anywhere you get your podcasts, we typically do a PGR, a post-game review after every single Stars game. And we'd love for you guys to tune into that and let us know your thoughts. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this afternoon. Thank you guys for tuning in. Chris, thank you once again for joining me. And guys, we'll catch you guys on the flip side, and go Stars.